Once upon a time, in a grand castle that glimmered under the golden sun, there lived a girl named Cinderella. At 12 years old, she had the spirit of a songbird, her heart full of melodies that danced through the air like soft whispers. She sang as she swept the floors, harmonized with the rustling leaves, and strummed her little lute by her lonely window, filling the castle with joy, even when the world outside grew darker. But life inside the castle was not as melodious as Cinderella's heart. Her stepmother, Lady Melody, was a stern woman with a voice as cold as winter's breath. And her two stepbrothers, Jim and Dan, were more interested in bullying than in music. They would mock Cinderella's songs, telling her they were pointless in the grand scheme of noble life. Their laughter echoed through the halls. But Cinderella never let it steal her joy. She believed that every note was a piece of magic, waiting to bring people together. One dreary day, the castle was abuzz with excitement. A grand ball was to be held at the royal palace, a dazzling affair where folks from far and wide would join to celebrate the prince's return from distant lands. Cinderella's heart danced with excitement. She dreamed of attending and sharing her songs, but her dreams were quickly dashed when Lady Melody announced, "Cinderella, you shall remain behind. We need you to clean, and you must make sure my dress shines for the ball." As her stepbrothers chortled and climbed into their fancy clothes, Cinderella soaked in their laughter, feeling a fizz of sadness swell within her. With a heavy heart, she returned to her chores, the sound of her lute a mere memory in the air. The clock ticked forward, and soon dusk settled over the castle, wrapping it in shadows. Just as Cinderella despairingly wiped away a tear, a brilliant light flickered in the corner of her room, illuminating the dust motes that floated like fairy dust. To her astonishment, a figure cloaked in shimmering robes appeared before her, a fairy godmother, her presence radiant and warm. "Do not fret, dear child," the fairy said, her voice twinkling like the stars. "Your kind heart and beautiful spirit deserve to be celebrated tonight. I will help you." With a wave of her wand, magic spread through the room. A dress of shimmering yellow like the sunlight breaking through clouds transformed from the rags Cinderella wore. Golden threads wove themselves into a pair of delicate slippers, each one glimmering with enchanting light. "But how will I get to the ball?" Cinderella asked, elated yet puzzled. With another flick of her wand, the pumpkin in the garden turned into a magnificent carriage, and mice became splendid horses, ready to whisk her away into the night. "Remember," the fairy cautioned, "you must return before the clock strikes midnight. That is when the magic will fade." Cinderella thanked her fairy godmother and, with a flutter of nerves and excitement, climbed into the carriage, her heart racing with each passing moment. The castle was now a distant memory as she arrived at the royal palace, where lanterns twinkled like stars in the night sky. As she stepped out, all eyes turned towards her, and the room filled with gasps of wonder. Cinderella twirled beautifully as the music began, her heart soaring with joy. The prince, enchanted by her grace, took her hand and led her to the dance floor. Together, they danced and laughed, and Cinderella felt a profound joy she had never known. In that moment, she shared her song. It flew from her lips like a lingering breeze, wrapping around every guest, uniting them in harmony. But as the clock began to chime, the sound echoed through the hall. Crescendoing with urgency, she remembered the fairy's warning and panicked. With one last twirl, she sprinted away, her golden slippers tapping softly on the marble floor. In her haste, she lost one of her slippers, leaving it behind as a shimmering memory of their magical night. As she reached the carriage, the final chime of the clock faded into silence and the vibrant colors of the ball dissolved into shadows. Cinderella found herself back in her room, the night's magic a fleeting mirage. But her heart was full. She had shared her melody, even if only for a brief while. The next day, Lady Melody and her sons returned from the ball, filled with tales of grandeur and splendor. "There was a girl," they exclaimed. "Such a beauty in a yellow gown. The prince is smitten." Cinderella listened quietly, her heart fluttering with the memories of the night. Then, the royal herald arrived at the castle, announcing that the prince was searching for the owner of the lost golden slipper. He would visit every home, and the one who fit the shoe would be the girl he wished to see again. Cinderella's breath hitched in her throat as her stepfamily insisted on trying the slipper. Jim and Dan stomped and tugged, but their feet were too large for the delicate shoe. Finally, it was Cinderella's turn. Heart pounding, she stepped forward, her hopes buoyed by the memory of the dance. As she slipped her foot into the slipper, it fit perfectly like it had been made just for her. The eyes of everyone around her widened in disbelief, and the prince, who had followed the herald, stepped forward, recognition lighting his eyes. "You are the one, the girl with the song," he exclaimed, joy radiating from him. "Will you join me, Cinderella? The world needs your music," he continued, extending his hand to her. Cinderella's heart filled with possibilities. "Yes," she whispered, unable to contain her joy. She would stand by his side, sharing her songs with the world, spreading joy and harmony where darkness once ruled. As they danced together, Cinderella knew that her life would be filled with music, hope, and love. Lady Melody, Jim, and Dan looked on with disbelief, but Cinderella couldn't care less. She had learned that with courage, kindness, and a little bit of magic, even the most challenging situations could lead to the most delightful of adventures. As the melodies filled the castle, transforming it into a character of its own, Cinderella's heart swelled, knowing she had finally found her place. Not just as a princess, but as a beacon of music, spreading enchantment far beyond the castle walls. And they lived happily ever after, ever inspired by the magical power of music and dreams.